I know many people are still joining us this morning, but as moderator, it would only be appropriate that I get us started on time because Jess makes sure that we have to end on time. And no one wants to lose their lunch time. So we'll get started. I'm going to begin by just identifying that you should have some socks at your table. I recognize there are not enough socks for everyone, but that's because you're going to have to win these socks. So keep them on the table. Yes, Melinda, that means you too. And we will be chatting a little later. So if I walk around and I see no socks on the tables, I know that somebody at your, oh, see Nicole, I saw you get back the socks. There you go. Yes, you did not win the socks yet. Sorry, not yet. You have to win them. It's coming. But if I were all of you, I would start pulling out Mr. Google and I would start looking up Canadian trivia because that might help you to understand how you're going to win your socks. But actually, you know what? Yeah, no, we're going to stay with that. All right, well, welcome back to day 2 of the Alliance meeting. I'm so glad to see everybody here in person and virtually, of course. I'm Tammy Moore, and I get to be your moderator for this morning. If you missed it yesterday, of course, we had some fantastic presentations. We will be having them saved as recordings, which I know from some of the people that are online that they would really appreciate that, so I know they're looking forward to it. And of course, we had that outstanding premiere last night. Wasn't that incredible? I know for many of us, that was a very emotional moment as we watched, and we'll be thinking carefully about that as the time comes that we get to share that with our community and even more further broadly. So for those of you joining us in person for the first time, we do have a few housekeeping items to take care of. So from program content, we've introduced 2 key changes in this year's Alliance Meeting and Allied Professionals Forum. We're going to be focusing on association executive and experiential elements. So first, at the Alliance meeting, we're elevating the association executive experience. Whether in Malaysia, Ireland, Australia, or Canada, the fundamental challenges are often the same, just varying in scale. And we heard that yesterday, didn't we, from Kathy and from Nicole about the two spectrum, or the 2 ends of the spectrum there. So to address this, we've incorporated sessions aligned with the competency areas crucial for all associations. We'll also be including a question in our post-conference survey about creating small satellite groups, whether it's measuring care services, navigating governance issues, or updating bylaws. And I hope that you'll take this opportunity to be able to participate in these. Second, the APF is now enriched with more experiential components, featuring innovative elements like apps, music, art displays, and even a food demonstration. We will use this as a pilot to gauge whether or not we should do more of this next year in Montreal. So please take that opportunity. I know when Kathy walks towards the stage, people start to pay attention. So I just wanted to make sure we're okay, Kathy. Okay. All right. Okay. Skip ahead. Great. All right. The one thing I do want to remind you is that we do have videos for the meeting and that we have the Alliance's communications manager, Lynn Riku, who will be setting up a tripod out in the front by the Marches of Faces banners. So please participate in a short interview. If you've been following on LinkedIn, you'll see that some of the videos from last year's conference have now been posted, and it's kind of a nice way to get snapshots of what the attendees were expecting. Again, Q&As, please, when you're standing up for a Q&A or when you're asking a question, make sure to introduce yourself. We all want to know who you are. And again, we've got translation. It's on the device. We've got it on our app, and it's sponsored by Biogen. So I think, unless people have questions, we're going to skip ahead. So our very first presentation this morning is providing peer support for the genetic ALS and FTD community. So I would like to invite Jean and Cassandra to the stage. Jean Swindler and Cassandra Haddad-Light. Good morning.
We'd like to start by thanking the Alliance for having us and the team at ALS Hope Foundation for their continued support. Yesterday's presentations are a hard act to follow, but we'll give it a shot. I'm Cassandra Haddad, Vice Chair of End the Legacy. I come from an SOD1 A5V ALS family, and I'm a genetic carrier. Like so many other people at risk, my family has been decimated by ALS for generations. Pictured here is my grandfather, Harold, who died just before our gene was discovered, my uncle Dwayne, who died 3 years ago while in the Valor trial, and my mother, Cindy, who died just last year. Before the advent of End the Legacy, I had nowhere to go for support or information other than my own frantic Google searches and hours spent scouring research articles on what, if anything, I could do for myself. There was no one else I could talk to like me or like my family. I've been in medicine over 20 years, and I had never met another genetic ALS family. Despite working full-time, navigating my mother's ALS journey, participating in multiple clinical trials, and my favorite, being a twin mom, I have made supporting the mission of End the Legacy a priority because this organization is paramount to my life, my future, and my children's future.
Good morning. I'm Jean Swidler. Along with Cassandra, I participate in End the Legacy and am the current first executive director. So my name is on the slide, but I thought I would give you some background more on my mother's experience with ALS in her life. So my mother was born in 1948, and then when she was a young woman in the late 1960s, her grandfather, James Moore, pictured here, was diagnosed with ALS, and she remarked that he would just lie on the couch and did not participate in conversations as he was slowly paralyzed. After that, 20 years later, when my mom was in her early 40s, her mother, my grandmother Lillian, pictured here a few months before her death in 1990 at the age of 67, was sensed trouble when she could not ascend a tour bus step in Ireland, and was at first diagnosed with Parkinson's, but soon it was an ALS diagnosis. Her brain was donated at Columbia in 1990. So after that, my mother, with 4 kids and career as a librarian, spent the next many decades very anxious about developing ALS, and she would talk about it all the time to everyone. She would talk about it to her doctor, but nothing was really done for her with that risk, and nobody would really engage on it. It just seemed like a neurotic thing. Even at this picture at my wedding in beautiful Oakland, California, my mom brought it up with my future in-laws and my fiance about her fear of developing ALS. Well, 6 months after that photo was taken, she developed 2 drop feet and had a positive Babinski reflex and was finally referred to a neurologist. The neurologist diagnosed her with peripheral neuropathy unexplained and did not order genetic testing despite her entreaties about her family history. 10 months later, after developing weakness in her right hand and bulbar issues, she was finally diagnosed with ALS. You can see her in this photo surrounded by her siblings a few months after her diagnosis. In the top right of that photo is my Aunt Joanne. My mother was the oldest of 7 siblings. My Aunt Joanne was the youngest of 7 siblings, and she died of ALS a few months ago. My mom died at age 70 in 2019 after just 16 months of a diagnosis. So that was my mom's story. Now, that was her personal experience of having nowhere to turn, of having no way to have this fear of her reflected or touched on. The broader picture was, next slide please, that for many years there was no dedicated support groups and limited ways for people in our position to connect. No representation of our community when issues impacting us were being discussed. And the at-risk community, for those of you who are in New York or other communities that have subway systems where there's 2 tracks and then a 3rd electrified rail, people use the phrase, oh, things are a 3rd rail, like you can't touch them. So the at-risk community was considered a 3rd rail situation by many. So it was too volatile to really mess with. And our health in relation to our risk, as you could see in my mother's experience, was never considered at all. So we knew that there was other ways that communities could be organized. So there actually had been other models of patient-led adult onset inherited disease communities that have been around. For instance, the Huntington's Disease Youth Organization, which Melinda has worked so closely with. There's, of course, a large hereditary cancer community, including Facing Hereditary Cancer Empowered or FORCE. And there's even a organization led by some wonderful people impacted by dominantly inherited early onset Alzheimer's called Youngtimers. So we knew that people could get together and do this. So Cassandra, I, and many others came together and created Genetic ALS and FTD and the Legacy. This is our mission statement. We did this to provide educational and support resources to encourage and promote research about and advocate for the genetic ALS and FTD community. So we are working on a number of issues with all of these areas. We have webinars and educational content on our website. We are doing advocacy where we can. Hello, that's what we're doing here. And we are engaging in talking to the federal government, the NIH, and other folks, FDA, about research priorities for us, as well as the research community. But I wanted Cassandra to talk about a little of the support work we're doing.
And the Legacy provides peer support through multiple avenues. In addition to the relationships that our members develop with one another, like Jean and I, we hold a dedicated monthly support hour. We designed this program after consulting with licensed social workers who worked in other related disease spaces, like the at-risk Huntington's community. This session is led by one of our own members, Lindy Jacobs, who is a registered nurse. In this dedicated support space, in addition to this, we also hold a weekly meeting that Jean will detail a bit later. We collected data on the impact of these two support options. I think that might be a level 5 from yesterday's presentation. And first we'll discuss the impact of the peer support group on the attendees. The group takes place every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time. Attendance over the survey period included 26 people over 5 sessions, 10 people on average per session, and our survey did demonstrate the value of this offering, including the following responses. When asked if you felt the support hour was beneficial to you, 100% said yes, it was. If asked, do you intend to come to future sessions, all respondents either would come to another session or would at least consider it. And perhaps the best feedback on the peer support group came from the individual responses to the question, do you think the ability to connect with other impacted people is important, and if so, why? So we have a few quotes. Overall, they indicated a need for support outside of family members, a sense of community, and an appreciation for sharing of resources. So here's a few of our quotes. Yes, I can't talk to anyone who truly understands in my day-to-day life. Even my siblings and other relatives don't like to engage on it. To be with others in the same position as me is reassuring and makes me feel better about what I'm going through. And yes, family dynamics are sometimes so dynamic that having a neutral group to speak with allows different conversations to occur.
So the other avenue that we have, in addition to our dedicated support hour, is just that we're working together as a community. So I don't know if you all know Daniel Barvin, but he really jump-started our group in 2020 when he posted about the Huntington's Disease Youth Organization and shared, hey, why don't we have anything like this for us? So that's how we got started. And then we kind of coalesced through 21 and 2022. And then we officially launched as a nonprofit and the Legacy in January 2023. The main form of participation for our members is weekly meetings where we have about 20 impacted people each week. These are different people depending upon whether they can make that week or so. For instance, we looked at how many participated in the first 6 months of 2023, and we had 55 people who participated in 5 or more meetings. So those are 5 hours of volunteer time to these meetings that these people have given. Topics in the meetings include pertinent news to our community, debate on issues impacting us, and plans for how we will engage with industry, regulators, and researchers. So we also decided to survey this group of folks. We knew that some had considered engaging on the topic of your risk for these diseases might be like poking at a scab and may be very bad for people to contemplate this risk that they have. So we surveyed our 55 people, 33 responded. So first up, we asked people how they were impacted by genetic ALS and FTD, and a majority are people who know they have a mutation and are asymptomatic. I do want to highlight that 24% are loved ones of someone at risk, and we learned through this process that we had missed something. Of course, we know that spouses or friends would be considered loved ones, but in that bucket also were people who tested negative for the gene in their family. And we learned that we really have to come up with a term for those people because they should be able to identify themselves in a way that honors their shared traumatic past, even if their future might be a little different. We also asked if people feel more or less optimistic about their future and being at risk since becoming involved. And about 70% said they feel more optimistic. Only one person said that they feel less optimistic. We asked folks about their interest in research participation, and over 63% of folks said that they were more likely to participate in interventional or observational research after being involved in the group. We honed in on that. Of course, no matter what, there will be some level of distress knowing that you are at risk for a terrible disease, at great risk for a terrible disease. So we asked people if their levels of distress had changed or gone up or down since becoming involved in the group. And over 90% of attendees shared that their feelings of distress in relation to their risk did not change or went down. And then finally, we asked, how has being involved in an organized genetic ALS and FTD community impacted your overall sense of well-being? And the vast majority, close to 76%, said that it has led to a greater overall sense of well-being than before they became involved.
So we talked a little bit about AI yesterday, and we actually did use AI to analyze our responses to the open-ended question and discovered several common themes. So community and support in reference to the question of, in your own words, how has being involved impacted you, and what would you tell people about the group? Multiple individuals mentioned finding a sense of belonging and support within the group, feeling less alone and feeling the challenges associated with familial ALS and FTD. Empowerment and advocacy. Many express a newfound sense of empowerment to make a difference, advocating for themselves and future generations affected by the disease. They're driven to bring about change and are proactive in seeking solutions. Purpose and hope. Being involved has given them a sense of purpose, hope, and a positive outlook despite the difficulties. They see potential for change and progress in research and policy that might impact their lives and the lives of others. Education and information. Being part of the group has provided education, information, and connections to others in similar situations, allowing for shared knowledge and learning from each other's experiences. Overall, these responses reflect a strong sense of unity, determination, shared commitment to advocate, support, and work towards finding solutions for familial ALS and FTD. There were so many individual responses to the question that we would love to share. A few highlights include, being involved in End the Legacy has helped me feel less isolated in the sea of uncertainty and anguish that familial ALS and FTD brings. The collective motivation, passion, strength of its members provides desperately needed hope for the future and creates a voice that deserves to be heard loud and clear. The help and support from End the Legacy is immense. Being part of a group of gene carriers and those at risk means everything. You don't need to explain the trauma that you experience because everyone automatically understands. A few more. I found like-minded trailblazers that help erase any doubt one might have when it comes to genetic testing. The decision is not taken lightly. Knowing people who can ultimately benefit from such a decision helps. It made me realize how much of an impact I can make in policy, research, and in my ALS community. And perhaps the most poignant response is this one. from a gene-positive carrier in their 30s who's been involved with the group since 2022. I no longer feel alone. But there are people out there who do feel alone and who don't know about our community and our work. You can help the genetic ALS and FTD community by directing impacted people to our website for more information and our support group for those who are looking for connections. You can also help by continuing to include us as members of the genetic community in any discussions about us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that fantastic presentation. Do we have any questions? Surprisingly, Kathy Cummings over here has a question.
I do have a mic, thanks. I have a question too. Thank you for your presentation. I'm curious, so with my ALS Association hat on, we have spent a lot of time focused on genetic discrimination. And so in the United States, many of our insurance carriers use genetic testing against people in order to prevent them from getting insurance coverage, not just health insurance, life insurance, and there's been some federal legislation on that. And so I'm curious of the members that you have so far and maybe the behind-the-scenes conversations, if that's been part of any kind of conversation you're having, how to recruit people and maybe break through some of those barriers. And by the way, I would love to talk to you more about how we might be able to work together on some of these really significant issues.
Well, thank you so much for that, and we're always happy to talk to any and everyone, so that would be so lovely, and thank you for the nice question. So genetic discrimination is horrible. Certainly in insurance products, it's really bad. We do support expanding GINA to include those other insurances. We do need to be cognizant that it's possible that insurance companies are getting all they need from asking about family history, and the impact of genetics on insurance discrimination may not be that severe. For instance, Florida, through the push of the Speaker of the State Assembly in 2020, he basically just single-handedly passed an expansion of GINA in Florida that outlawed genetic discrimination in long-term care and life insurance, and I have not heard of any big shakeup in the insurance industry due to that. So I do wonder how much it's actually happening, because they are still allowed to ask people about their family history with or without genetics. But it is important, and we do want to take care of it. And Cassandra, I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, we do have a genetic counselor as a member of our group, which we're incredibly fortunate to have her.
We have a few.
Yeah. And we do talk a lot about that in our group. So what else was I? Oh, we are also working at the state and federal level to work on GINA legislation. We have a member who's really active in the state of Maryland right now. So we're working on it. We're trying. We'll work together.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, my question is a little bit different because it's not based in the U.S. So, Cassandra, building on your call to action that you just had at the end of your presentation, we have a number of, obviously, international groups here. So are there other groups in the world that are doing the same work as you? And also, what is your footprint and mandate? Is it U.S.-based or is it international-based? And could you just speak a little bit more about that call to action with an international lens? Thanks.
Sure. I think we have 6 countries now represented in our groups. The tricky part, as all of you know, is time zones. So certainly we would love to expand our support hour to include more time zones. We're a 100% volunteer-run organization, so we need continued funding to be able to expand.
Yeah, language, of course, is an issue. So right now, there's just no other effort like this in the world. And so we do speak for the global genetic community because no one else is, so somebody has to. But we welcome other people getting involved in other places. We do have people in Europe, Australia, Singapore, Israel, who come to meetings and are pretty active, UK, Ireland. But of course, we'd love to collaborate with anyone and everyone, and the issue of us all mainly speaking English is a serious one that we need to overcome, and welcome anyone helping push the community getting organized globally in different languages forward.
Thank you. Melinda.
Question. Is this on? Kevin Robinson from Niels asks, do you see gaps or opportunities for government or philanthropic funding to support asymptomatic genetic carriers? If that is something you have or are pursuing, could you share your thoughts?
Thanks, Kevin. We're big fans of yours, so thank you for the great question. Yeah, no, any philanthropist, please hit us up. But we do applaud the government and other folks, including many in this room, like the ALS Association and others who have supported longitudinal ALS research for many years, and we think that's awesome. We do think that perhaps those studies could also work more closely with us, so that might be a way to kind of bridge those two areas. And we do appreciate that the NIH, when they talked about the ALS strategic plan, they put out the description for it and said the stakeholders for the plan were going to be people with ALS and their caregivers. And I emailed them and I said, hey, there's this large pool of people who are at genetic risk, and ALS research impacts them very directly. And they amended their scope to include people at genetic risk within 24 hours. And to this day, they still say that. So I've been very appreciative of that.
Thank you, Jean and Cassandra. Really appreciate you opening this conversation and bringing this community forward in a different way. Really appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to welcome Leslie Ryan and Pam Knott with their presentation on My ALS Journey. And I'll give you extra bonus points, I think, every time I hear Canada or Montreal mentioned. That might help.
So Canada, Montreal. See you all there in Montreal next year. Canada? Okay, gotcha. Thanks, Tammy. I won. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the nice introduction and the socks. But thank you for having us today. Pam and I are excited to share with you a new tool that we've developed to help people who are impacted by ALS. So to begin, a little history. A couple of years ago, during this meeting, we were inspired by our colleagues at ALS Canada, and I didn't even say that for extra bonus points. We started exploring the concept of mapping the journey for someone living with ALS. We started by creating 7 personas that captured significant variations in disease progression, including type of onset, insurance, if there was a genetic link, demographic information, and more. We then identified the major changes, decision points, and impacts of the disease and mapped those with the impacts that we can have as an organization via our programs, information and education, our clinics, and our staff. If you could have been with us in the conference room where we were doing this, you would have enjoyed the beautiful array of sticky notes that we had around the room. We had sticky notes that were this big, and they plastered the room, and then the tables were covered with snacks because we pretty much locked ourselves in a room for a couple days and figured this out. But as we gathered this information and we discussed how to deliver it to our community in a meaningful way, we kept returning to the fact that ALS is a disease experience unique to each person. It goes without saying that with an ALS diagnosis, people become overwhelmed. While they have many questions and concerns, we also recognize that they don't know what they don't know. We wanted to provide a trusted resource that would help people along the way, meeting them where they are in the moment and bringing them forward where they want to go. We wanted to educate and inform people with ALS about the available options for care, create empowered decision makers, provide information that results in proactive planning versus reactive decision making. We wanted to help people understand that they can live a full and meaningful life with ALS. And most importantly, we wanted to reassure people that they were not alone. Out of this process, we created My ALS Journey. My ALS Journey is an interactive tool providing resources, information, and reminders. It can be personalized. It facilitates connection, continuously driving people back to their clinic teams and local support once they have the foundational information that they need. It's kind of one of those things that's available to people when they wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and they can't sleep and they have a random question on their mind, or it's something they don't feel like they have somebody that they can call and get the information for. We can give them introductory information, we can give them deeper information if they like, and then we prompt them to follow up with the appropriate provider. Right now, this tool is currently focused on people who are diagnosed with ALS, so the language and content is geared toward them, but it is not strictly restricted to them. So I encourage you, if you're interested later today, to get on the site and take a look. But I will right now show you a few of the key features of My ALS Journey. When you first visit the site, you have the options to personalize the information you're going to receive just for the visit that you're at right now, or you can create an account. I know you can't probably read what's on these slides, and that's okay, but upon entering the site, the user is asked some initial questions. These are questions based on the ALS-FRS, but we are not giving an ALS-FRS score. They are used as a guide for us to understand the current state of progression of disease, and then it helps us with the classification used for delivering the resources behind the scenes. When someone chooses to set up a profile, we ask a little bit more information. We get basic demographics, their current interests, their current challenges, and then we ask about connections to local services, an ALS clinic, the National ALS Registry in the US, and other resources. Also, once someone has created an account with us, every time they log in, the first question they see that pops up, which is on the bottom of this slide, is an emotional check-in question. We find this really important because there's some information that can be hard to hear throughout the disease process, and if they're feeling like they're in a vulnerable state, we're not going to deliver some of the more challenging information at that time. It also triggers some information about support available to them and encourages them to reach out for support in various ways, and again, reminds them that they are not alone. Once you're in My ALS Journey, you will receive curated resources based on the answers to the questions I was just describing, and we do continue to add content to this site on a regular basis. So the first thing you see is all the information and resources that pops up. You have a library where you can save articles by clicking on the little bookmark icon. You have action items that will appear at the bottom of all of your curated resources, and you can view the entire list under the My Actions tab, along with things that you've already checked off, if you're that person who needs to see the accomplishments that you have had. Our goal with these action items is to inform people of options and resources they may not have known about. For instance, voice banking or ALS Focus, our survey program. We also have embedded in our content things, again, that someone may not have thought about. So if someone is reading about respiratory changes and breathing and support, at the end of that article, we say, and do you have a feeding tube? Have you thought about a feeding tube? Of course, if they've already indicated they have a feeding tube in the initial survey questions, that's not going to pop up. But what we're trying to do is say, getting a feeding tube depends on your breathing capabilities. And so make sure you're thinking about that too. We're trying to connect the dots. It goes back to people don't know what they don't know. And we in this room have the benefit of understanding progression and maybe what is coming next. But someone who is exploring this ALS journey for the first time wouldn't know some of these things. So we're trying to hop in with information as we can. People can share resources through this tool via email or social media. They can search for resources. They can filter by topic or type. We have articles to read, podcasts to listen to, and videos to watch so that people may choose the information delivery that best suits them. And importantly, they can find local care. We have information about local support in their area. We have our clinic locator tool embedded in here. And we have a menu that links people back to our website, support groups, and more information. So throughout the process of developing My ALS Journey, we had multiple rounds of user testing. This included people living with ALS, current caregivers, people who had lost a loved one to ALS, and association staff who work directly with families impacted by ALS every day. Adjustments have continuously been made throughout the process, and additional features have been added based on the valuable information shared during these sessions. But here and throughout this presentation are some of the quotes that we've received during the feedback process. Overall, our feedback has been very positive, and we've been really excited about the potential that this tool has. And I'll turn it over to Pam for some of the data.
Thanks, Leslie. Hi, everybody. I'm Pam Knott, Vice President of Data and Technology at the ALS Association. And I'm going to go over the approach that we took with data when we were building the tool, usage analytics, and where we're going in the next phase. So what was really important is to find that right balance of collecting the data that we needed to provide the best experience as possible without burdening the user of asking so many questions. And as Leslie outlined earlier, what we prioritized during the registration process was symptoms, topic preferences, and streamlined profile information. And I will cut right to the chase. We had two main lessons learned. One is that we had really good engagement. So once people were on the site, they took time and they were engaged with it. But we do have to do a better job of reducing the abandon rate for completing the entire registration process to create an account. And we can do that in a couple ways. We might want to consider combining registration steps, or perhaps present the questions a bit differently. And also encourage and incentivize folks by sharing the benefits of going all the way to completion. Another lesson learned was that we have a really well-diversified marketing strategy, but we just have to increase the scope and the volume of it so that we are continuously raising awareness about this tool. We want to prioritize search engine optimization, and again, going back to the benefits, include the content on how and why people would want to use this tool. So here are some stats. We had over 4,300 users so far, and I'll mention this is from May 25th, when we officially publicly launched it, through October 31st of this year. So about 4,300 users, 6,200 sessions, and if you look over to the right, about 3,200 of those are engaged sessions. So 50%, which is, I'm told, a really, really great rate. And you'll see on the bottom that, yes, we launched and we had some really big spikes in usage, and that certainly reduced, but it's been steady over time. We just have to sustain the volume of again, raising awareness of the tool. And here is the funnel for that registration process. So out of the folks that start the process, I'm sure you can't really read those numbers, 28% actually make it all the way through. And so we have to do a better job of finding out how to reduce the friction and the effort throughout that whole process. On the left, this is really just a visualization of that diversified mix of the sources of how people get to us. And then on the right, you'll see that these are the devices of how they use the tool. Of course, the majority is desktop and mobile, and then we have about 3% on tablet. So 84% of sessions take place by somebody located in the United States, but that means that 16% are outside of the United States. And I wanted to call out a few that struck me. Canada has had 100 sessions. Yes. Two for two. The Philippines had 94 sessions. China had 50 sessions, and Poland had 65 sessions. So it's all over the place, and which I thought was great. So a theme that has been brought up already is prioritizing. We have to prioritize how we invest our resources, and that includes what we're going to do and how we can grow this tool. We ultimately want to build a version of this tool that's specific to caregivers. Now, that's a huge project. So in the meantime, what we're going to do in the next phase, 2.0, includes creating a chatbot called Alice for more conversational interaction. We want to include even more patient stories, especially in different mediums such as video, and have more potential integrations into other platforms such as Rune. We want even quicker connections to local services through API connections and geolocation. We're going to build in more direct user feedback surveys so that we can have faster adjustments to content. And we're going to build out a note section and user-created tasks instead of system-generated tasks, or I should say in addition to system-generated tasks. So this is where a person can really create a packet or a portfolio that's specific to them that they can take when they're engaging with their clinicians or having other specific conversations. And then finally, we want to integrate this into our CRM and do even more data analytics so that we have even more opportunities for supporting people and for broader impact. And this has been a huge project. We would not be standing here today if it were not for the woman next to me. Leslie's commitment has led us through this cross-functional, collaborative project. It took care services, marketing and communications, data and technology, multiple work groups, multiple vendors, and of course, the users that helped us test, which included people living with ALS, caregivers, family members, and staff. And the tagline yesterday really stuck with us because even though this is a tech-enabled tool, it certainly does take people to accomplish this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leslie and Pam, and the shameless plugs for Canada were helpful too. See, this is easy. All right, can we have some questions?
Hi, Pam and Leslie. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm David Harley from M&D Australia. That was an awesome presentation. I just wanted to get a sense, though, Pam, you made a comment that there needs to be a diversified marketing approach. And it's like, you know, when people build a product or a service, whatever, it might be the best in the world, but if you can't market it, then it doesn't have much value. So I wanted to get a sense about your marketing approach, and because I was also curious when you had the map of the world that, you know, China and others have already engaged with the platform. Thank you.
Absolutely. So if you remember the big spikes on that chart, that was, we actually had campaigns, so marketing campaigns, email campaigns. But we also launched this previously to internal staff, and those folks, and perhaps Leslie could speak more to this, the care services managers also publicized it with their one-on-one interactions. But we have the different sources include our own website, Facebook, those sorts of things. Leslie, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would just say that social media, I think, has been a big piece of this. When we launched it at the end of May, it was to close out our campaign around ALS Awareness Month in the U.S., and so we did have a solid week of social posts and emails and whatnot. But we have recognized that we need to do a better job, too, with our staff locally, for them to understand exactly how and when to share this with families and then expand it broader. So it's one of our focuses as we work with our marketing and communications team at the association to figure out how to do this on a regular basis until it becomes something that is just kind of consistently known. Thank you. Oh, we have David, too.
I think we've got Gudjun here first.
Oh, Gudjun, okay.
Gudjun?
Thank you for this. looks a lot like patients like me, and probably a lot deeper and more information. But I wonder, when you are logging into your system, do you demand me to put in my zip code?
So anybody can use it without logging in. So the short answer is yes. You can get to the resources and look through all of the resources available. But if you created an account, it does have, I don't know that it's required, but we do ask for it, and it is certainly helpful. But in the future iteration, we do want to use, like I said, geolocation, so you don't even have to worry about that in the future.
No, because that is often the international barrier to these
Yep.
great tools.
Absolutely.
So when we appeal to the philanthropists in the room, one of the things we've talked about is how we could expand this internationally too, and be able to link to so many of the international resources and everything that we are aware of here. It is very US based, but truly the information that is in there that's US based is really focused around the local services and then the insurance information from an education standpoint.
Thank you. And one question over here, and then.
So really, I'm David Busek, patient fellow, and I was curious from a marketing perspective why it looked like there were maybe 4 or 5 states in the U.S. that had so much higher engagement than the others. But what I was really more interested in is whether you are or are able to tie into things like ALS registry or electronic medical records to be able to download or import data rather than having to put it all in individually when people sign up.
Yeah, I would guess that the states that were red were probably due to just population. And for your question around integrating into more, that we're at the beginning stage of integrations like that. Starting out with internal systems, but to make sure I understand your question, it's not just for connecting people to those resources, it's actually using that data for our analytics. Is that what you're getting at, or is it for the user, helping the user out?
I was thinking more about helping the user out,
Yep.
that when you're putting in all of that demographic information, the history of your disease, all that sort of stuff, if
I
I've
see.
already done that in another database,
Yep.
can I import it in here rather than redoing that?
Yep, that's a great idea, and we will certainly explore that in phase 2.
All right. Thank you, Leslie and Pam. And again, they're here all week, so you get to ask more questions of them later. Up next, we have Allison Bulett with Implementing a Foundation of Support and Collaboration, Uniting the Patient Community, the Science Community, and Industry.
Hi, everyone. First, Tammy, I didn't know that only a shameless plug for Canada could get you socks. That would have prevented a whole lot of cat fighting that happened at the table back there. But we have Paula at our table, so we're going to do okay. Thank you. Good morning. I'm so glad to be here with all of you today. I can't see the screen. Okay, you have my slides up. Today I want to share with you some of the great work that we're doing in collaboration with other organizations in the United States. Excuse me. And not from a perspective of, wow, look at this great work that we're doing, which it is really great work, but from a perspective of, we've learned some things that we want to share. We want to learn from you, and here's where we're going forward, and how can we do that together? So, our RISE initiative, I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to share with you a little bit about our NEOS Clinical Research Learning Institute, a little bit about our patient engagement team, a little bit about health literacy and what we're doing there, and a program that we call Office Hours. But first, you're probably thinking like, who is this person? Why are they talking to us? So I want to tell you a little bit about myself for those of you that I don't know. My name is Allison, and I'm responsible for community engagement for the Northeast ALS Consortium, or NEALS, and the Healy Center at Mass General Hospital in Boston. But more than that, I want to tell you a little bit about me as a person. For those of you who don't believe in love at first sight, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. You're just wrong. You know that, like, that connection you feel, even like when you're walking in the room and you connect to somebody and you really just want to talk to them or get to know them, you have that connection. And when you have that connection at a huge level with every part of your soul, then you know you found your soulmate, right? So I have no doubt that I found my soulmate in Jeff. As you guys can see those pictures, right? I'm too short to see the screen. So we had such a great connection. Like, we lived together, worked together, had the same friends. Our families were just merged together. We bought a home. We had a son. We were living the dream for over 20 years. So you're thinking, well, why aren't you here? What are you talking about? Well, my why is that all of that ended with 3 words. Those words, you have ALS. And that changed in 380 days. That changed I love you to I miss you when Jeff passed away. So I think yesterday somebody had told us that a picture paints 1,000 words. And I can't begin to tell you what that diagnosis feels like if you've never been there, and I hope you're never there if you haven't been there. But it's dark, and it's chaotic, and it's confusing. And this is our favorite spot. This is La Jolla Coves in California, if anybody has been there. And this is July 7th, 2015. We had gone to the University of California, San Diego to see if stem cells might be something that could help with ALS. The next picture is that same spot in 2016, same day, and Jeff had already gone. So without words, you can see what a dark place people go to. And for me, I wasn't really sure what to do at that point, and I think probably a lot of us feel that way, right? So I'm going to tell you what my mom told me, and I apologize in advance because my mom is really lovely, but she's a little abrupt sometimes. And she said, Allison, it's okay if you fall down, but when you get back up as the whole damn fire. Don't just change yourself, change the world, make it a better place. So I'm like, okay, Mom, I think that's what I'm gonna do. And so I made the decision to bloom where I was planted, in that dark place. And I did that by really immersing myself in these 2 organizations, which are NEALS and the Healy Center at Mass General. So I'll tell you first a little bit about NEALS. So NEALS is a consortium of academic centers who perform clinical research in ALS. And we have about 150 academic research sites that we support. We have a scientific advisory board, we have a biorepository, and we have a whole lot of subcommittees. I think there are like 17. But one of those subcommittees is what we call the Patient Education and Advocacy Committee, the PEACE Committee, for those of you who have heard of that. And in that committee, we run what's called our Research Ambassador Program through a Clinical Research Learning Institute, or a CURLI, as it's called. I'm a little opposed to that name, but that's what it is. So through this PEACE Committee, we get together every month, and I'm looking around, and so many of you participate in this with me, so thank you. We get together every month, and our goal is to bring together our research ambassadors from the patient community, with the science community, with industry, with other organizations in the ALS space, and to talk about what we're doing. We don't want to repeat anything. We want to be involved with each other because we know, at least in the United States, that we have a ton of ALS organizations, and everybody specializes in something a little bit different, right? So no one organization can speak for the entire community. We need to work together. So we do this through our PEACE Committee. And what we do for our Clinical Research Learning Institute is we bring people with lived experience in for a 2-day training class, a crash course on clinical research. And we talk about things like, what is clinical research? How does it work? What is the role of statistics in research? You know, how do you read a research paper or a press release? What's hope? What's hype? How do you communicate? And our goal is to really create a group of respected leaders in the patient community who stand with the science community, who are good stewards of science under the guidance of the science community. And I'm so proud that the ladies that were up here earlier, those are some of our research ambassadors. You guys did great. David and Linda here are research ambassadors. I don't know if Sunny's here right now or Kathy. Sunny, there you are. So we really have created an infrastructure to allow people who want to immerse themselves in science to be a part of the community. So thank you guys for being here. The other thing that we do is we really hold ourselves to some pretty high standards, always, to support each other, to encourage collaborative solutions, and to serve the ALS community in a way that promotes kindness, respect, and inclusion, always, and that's very, very important to us. So what do we do with all of that? Well, we participate in a lot of things, and I'm also looking around at how many of you have utilized our research ambassadors for things like patient advisory boards, task forces, work groups, different things, because we believe that our lived experience, having been on the ALS journey, is equally as important as our life experience and who we were and are and continue to be as human beings living on the ALS journey. So if anybody would like to talk about that later, happy to share, and please feel free to talk to our research ambassadors as well. And our goal moving forward is we know that we are very proud of where we've come with our program. We've trained over 900 research ambassadors in the United States and Canada, and one class in Australia as well. But we would like to globalize that in partnership with the International Alliance to create an infrastructure that lets people with lived experience live a purposeful life and immerse themselves into the science community. So the next thing, so we know that, you know, there are great people like Jean and Cassandra who are very well spoken and immerse themselves into the science, but that's not where you are when you first get your diagnosis, right? It's that dark, scary place that we need to help people through. So we decided at the Healy Center that we would navigate patient navigation. And to us, what that meant was we need to lead that communication, we need to act as intermediaries, and we need to serve in other organizations as well to understand what's happening in the community. So we put together this great patient engagement team. And honestly, we are a force. If you've ever met Catherine or Judy, you know. There's like no words you have to say. They're just incredible. They give their heart and soul to what they do. And we decided to set out and say, well, what is patient navigation? And we put 4 phases of goals in place and said, we want to provide consistent, reliable information, and then we want to give that information to people in a way that they can empower themselves. And then we need to reach outside the walls of our MGH community and understand the underserved populations that are dealing with ALS. And finally, we want to enable all families impacted by ALS to make informed and educated decisions about participating in clinical research. So that's exactly what we did. And in a snapshot period of time, in an 18-month time, we realized, wow, there was a need for this because we are taking a lot of calls, and we are doing a lot of Zoom calls, and we are doing a lot of webinars. We hold a webinar every single Thursday. For 3 years, we've done that. So we're, how are we going to keep up with this volume? We need to move to the next phase. We need to start empowering people. So we started creating digital things that people could use to find out information for themselves, and we knew that one of the first questions everybody asks is, am I eligible to participate in clinical research? So this is just an example where we created a tool online that kind of walks you through 5 quick questions and tells you if you probably are eligible for the trial or not. And it's not a hard stop. We don't believe in no. It's know this, but here are some things you can do as next steps. So that's how we approached digital tools. We created a lot of brochures. I'm sure lots of people have seen these. They're digital or printable. And as we see that there's a need, we create something to fill that need. And we realized that we weren't just doing this for our own country, the United States, that we actually have been helping families in 39 countries. Oh my gosh, thank goodness Canada's on there. Did you see that? Okay. So we started thinking, like, well, what are we going to do with all of this data and this information? And Pam and Leslie, wherever you guys sat down, we're in the process of implementing our own customer relationship management database, which is a relational database. And what that means is that we are tracking information about people, about what they're asking about which trials, about which expanded access protocols, about which site they want to participate in. And that's enabling us, or will when we go live in January, that will help us to expedite enrollment, to understand our gaps in communication, to know where we're talking to people from and where we aren't, so that we can decide how to best use our human resources. So this all led us to think, well, this is a bigger project than just what we're doing. And in talking with the founder, not maybe the founder, but one of the main people in health literacy, Lauren Webb, in the back of the room from Les Turner, I want to tell you guys what a wonderful job Les Turner does in the field of health literacy, and led by Lauren and her team. We decided that we need to move into phase 4. We got to start empowering people. We're going to do that through health literacy, which is really just making sure that people understand the purpose of the clinical research and their expectations of what the outcome of participating in clinical research will be. And that isn't up to them, that's up to us to be able to communicate to them in a way that makes sense to them. So last year at the Alliance, true story, excuse me, I'm sitting at, sorry, no voice today. I think it's divine intervention. Somebody up there is like, Allison, don't say it. No, last year I'm sitting at the Alliance and we're sitting at dinner and I'm talking about diversity, access, and inclusion because everybody wants that, right? But nobody knows how to do it. And I'm like, you know what, we can't sit here and talk about this anymore. We gotta just rent a van and start driving and start talking to people. And I just so happened to be sitting next to a lovely lady named Mary from Cytokinetics who said, I think we can fund you to do that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I spoke that into truth. And truly, Judy and I are renting a van as soon as the weather lets us, and we are driving through upstate New York as part of an ethnographic qualitative study that we are doing in collaboration with the ALS Association, NEALS, MGH, and with support from MT Pharma and Cytokinetics. We are going out there and just listening to people and taking that information, which is going to inform a study, a quantitative study that is currently underway for social determinants of health, which are all those non-medical things that may or may not impact your ALS progression. So we're hoping to answer 2 questions with that study. One, do things like socioeconomic status, family support, stress, your work situation, geographical location, do these things impact ALS progression? And if so, how do these things impact ALS progression? So it's a very large effort, but we're starting, and we're gonna keep going. So part of what we're doing, and I think maybe the Dutch Association yesterday talked about the train routes, and we did the same thing. We had the same concept of the Boston train routes at MGH, where they have different colored lines, and the blue line is the most basic, and it goes up from there. And so we decided we want to leave people a little better than we found them by giving them some information, and through our health literacy initiative, we started creating resources. And like deciding to participate in clinical research or phases of clinical research, and these are the basic ones. This is where we started. But we hope to evolutionize this process. So right now we're like the top picture where like the train is being pulled by, by a commander, and then we're gonna like set up those tracks, and then eventually we'll have like really slick trains pulling up to the station, and our end goal is to have this stealth community of trains that has information about all different things. And we are going to meet people where they're at and customize what they need to know about what in a personalized toolkit. And this is just an example of what that might look like leveled in health literacy. These are templates, there's not real words in them. The phases of clinical trials for blue line, orange line, and then what that might look like as you become more informed. The last thing I want to tell you about is a project called ALS Office Hours. We know that in the United States at least, it can be hard to get in to see your care team. It can take a little while, and that's just because they're very, very busy, not because they want to make you wait to see them. But we also have a lot of social media options. We have a lot of ways to get information. We want people to have good resources and good information. So this is a hugely collaborative effort. You can see everybody in the bottom that has come together, all as volunteers, and every week on Fridays, we open up for 1 hour a Zoom, and anybody can come ask any question, and we will help you to find the resources that you need. So this is a really special program, and actually our research ambassadors have stepped in to help us administer that, so grateful for that, so grateful for that. So to close, we have a lot to do. We have a lot we're working on, but there's a secret to success that I'm going to share with you. Keep calm, drink Diet Pepsi, or Diet Coke, Kathy, wherever you are, either one works. You know that. And I found this funny quote that says, I'm not on a diet. And it's funny because people go, well, then why do you drink diet soda? I'm like, clearly, so I can eat regular cake. And I'm like, I feel so seen. I don't know who Gabriel is, but I think I love him. I don't know. So moving forward, we just want to share what we've learned. We've made mistakes along the way. We want to learn from everybody else and remove those boundaries that we have by living in different countries, because we know we rise by lifting others, and we want treatments and cures for everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Allison. And yes, you threw Canada in there a couple of times. We've got a question at the back, but I have one question for you first.
Yes.
What is the name of the program that has been modeled after the Curly?
The Canadian Ambassador Program. Yes!
There you go. All right, I think, Gethin, we've got you in the back.
Thomas, M&D Australia. Just like to say, Alison, that's a fantastic suite of programs you got there, and I think you're definitely doing exactly what your mum told you.
Oh, thank
great
you.
work.
Thank you, Gethin.
And I'd just like to give a plug for running your own Crilly program as well, because we ran our first one last year in Australia, and we got fantastic support from Alison and Rick and Terry, the rest of the team, and they even dialed in at God knows what time of night it was for those guys and spent several hours helping us run our program. So if anyone else around the world is thinking about running their own Crilly, I would recommend it. Reaching out to Alison, you will get brilliant support.
Oh, thank you. Do you want my socks, Gethin? Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Gethin. And yes, the Canadian program is called the Canadian ALS Learning Institute, and it's modeled after the Curly. And it has been just a phenomenal program, and I think Paula can attest to that as well. So, excellent. One more question, and then I think we are at time.
Hey, Alison, right here.
Hi. I hear your voice.
Kuldip Dave from the ALS Association. What you didn't talk about, by the way, which is a program that you have around having a group of people with ALS that have raised their hand to provide feedback to industry. This is, even last week I contacted you, I think a couple of days ago before we both got here. It's such a valuable program that you have put together. So question I had about that is, what's sort of the turnover rate there? Do you always have a number that you need for people with ALS who have raised their hand and said we would talk to industry, we'll tell them about how to design trials and burden and all of that? And how do you make sure that you're constantly getting people that have that expertise? Are they getting trained through Curly? How do you kind of prepare them for that?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. We have given a lot of focus on that. So while we've trained 900 research ambassadors, this is a brutal disease. We have about, that was an 8-year period, we have about 220 in play right now. We want everybody who wants to participate and who's capable of participating to have a chance to. At our last class in Florida, we had 130 121 applicants, and we could take 13. So we know there's a huge overflow, and we have 4 classes scheduled in the first quarter of 2024. And keep in mind, these are all done by volunteers in the science community. And then we take those people interested specifically in those patient advisory boards for industry, and they get special training afterwards. They get assigned a research ambassador mentor. They may sit in with a very experienced group on 1 or 2 before they can move on to the larger ones. And we always have a leader in every one of those groups who has been doing this for a sufficient amount of time that can lead the group through the process.
Thank you very
for
much,
the question.
Allison. Excellent. Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking Allison. All right, next up, we have a presentation on the new 2023 Student Innovation Award. So to present the award, I would like to welcome Program Chair Gunjan and Kathy to the stage, please.
We are going to show a video. This is a brand new award, the Student Innovation Award. I just realized I forgot my notes on the desk, but that's okay. I'll wing it. This is a brand new award this year that Gunjan has been a huge champion of, introducing that focuses on improving quality of life. And one of the things that we recognize at the Alliance is that students who get involved with MND and ALS, individuals, while they're in school and developing technologies or other things that improve quality of life, often gain a connection to the community and feel a strong passion for MND and ALS, and they take that forward into whatever work they end up doing in the long run. So we're thrilled to have this award this year, and MND Iceland has also contributed some funds, so the students not only win the award, they get a small cash stipend as well, along with the award. So we weren't 100% sure if our students could join us here in Basel, so we pre-recorded the presentation of the award, but we are lucky to have one of the students here with us today, so we're going to play the pre-record first, and then we'll invite Gauri up to this stage to receive the award in person as well. So let's roll the video first. So hello, everyone, and thank you for being here today as we present the inaugural Student Innovation Award. I'm Kathy Cummings, the Executive Director of the International Alliance of ALS MND Associations, and I'm joined in this celebration by Gunjan Sigurdsson, the President of MND Iceland and a board member for the Alliance and longtime contributor to the Alliance. Before we present the winners, let me provide a brief overview of the award itself. The International Alliance of ALS MND Associations launched the Student Innovation Award this year to celebrate the incredible creativity and encourage awareness of ALS MND among students worldwide. It serves as a platform for students to showcase their inventive ideas with the ultimate goal of enhancing the quality of life for those living with ALS and MND.
And our candidates for this prestigious award brought forward innovative ideas that addressed the needs of people living with ALS and MND, demonstrating the potential for practical and accessible solution on an international scale.
Now, without further ado, let me introduce the winners of the inaugural Student Innovation Award, Gary Desai and Zineb Flahay. Both Gori and Zineb are second-year computer science students at the esteemed University College London. Actually, I think they might even be in third year. I think when they did this project, they were in second year. Their project is nothing short of revolutionary, a groundbreaking eye gaze solution designed to work seamlessly with a regular webcam and on Windows machines. It enables free-floating mouse movements and customizable dwell features for mouse clicking options. This first-generation proof of concept is a game changer, breaking down financial barriers associated with current eye gaze cameras while ensuring compatibility with a wide range of Windows configurations spanning the past 7 years. Looking ahead, the charity Special Effects will be collaborating with the University College London to begin trials for ALS MND users in the UK, collecting feedback for further improvements.
Congratulations to both of you. You are not just award winners, you are the inspiration for future generations in this ongoing fight against ALS MND. We look forward to what you will accomplish in the years ahead.
Gary and Zineb, would you like to make a few remarks?
Sure. So thank you very much for this incredible honor. We are thrilled to receive this award. Our eye navigation system was created to make a real difference in the lives of those affected by ALS and MND.
This achievement is not just ours, it's a testament to the strength and the inspiration we've received from our mentors, from the University College London, and also from our families and friends. So we would like to thank them for their support. We're excited about the future and remain committed to improving lives through innovation. So we would like to thank you all.
We would also like to give special thanks to our professor, Dean Mohammed Ali, who has helped us throughout this process over the past 2 years now.
Thank you so much, Gori and Zineb, and congratulations again on this award. I would like to invite Gori to come join us on stage, please. Congratulations, Gori. Here, let's move closer to the mic. There's, we've got a certificate for Gori, and I think Gunjan has something that he wants to add. And then, would you like to make a few remarks? Okay, excellent.
Well, I love people that think out of the box, make things easier and cheaper. Thank you for doing exactly that, and good luck in your future tasks.
I also want to add my congratulations directly. I think the whole idea of using everyday technology for something that improves people's ability to interact with others is such an important step forward. And even though Zineb and Gori talked about it just really briefly in their remarks on the video, I think it's important to recognize that University College London uses MND as a proxy for a lot of their programs, and is constantly bringing in people from the community, people from the association there to work with all of the students, whether it's in the computer science program or whether it's in They have something called the, you're going to maybe have to help me with this, the Global Disability Innovation Hub. That was a byproduct of the Olympics being in London in 2010. And both of the programs there at University College London use M&D as an example for the students to work with. And so I think we're seeing the results of this, and we owe a huge thanks to Professor Dean Muhammad Ali, who was mentioned in the video. But I would also throw down the gauntlet to each of you to advertise this award to your student communities, wherever you are, so that we can have young individuals like Gauri on the stage next year in Montreal. I don't need socks, it's okay. And, the work that they do is so important. So thank you, Gauri.
Yeah. Here, let's have a picture with you. Can you snap a picture, Jess? There we go. Lynn's right there. So we just need a Kodak moment. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Gauri and Zainab. What a wonderful award, and thank you, Gudjin, for bringing this forward. So thank you for having me as your moderator this morning. We're going to now take a quick break. For those of you joining us virtually, take a second, step away from your computer. We'll be back. For those of you stretching your legs, it looks like we will be back at 10:40 so that we are on the button. But first, I recognize that Cassandra and Jean didn't get a chance to plug shamelessly Canada. So give me one thing that you know about Canada. Could be your favorite person in Canada. Could be... All right. And Cassandra, do you have something? I can't just be... Okay.